Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We're going to begin. Welcome to those of you in the live stream world. Welcome to those of you here. Welcome to our fabulous musicians that we have here today. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. How wonderful it is for us to be together. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov ya la la ya la 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 la. Hine matov ya la la ya la 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 la. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Shevet achim gam yachad. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please turn to page 192 as we go to Ma Tovu. What beautiful music our musicians are playing. Thank you so much. Doesn't that just feed your soul? Speaking of our soul, the soul that is given to us is pure, and we have Elohai Neshama on page 192, on page 196. And we thank God for giving it back to us every day. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehorati. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehorati. Atavarata, Atayatzata, Atanefachta bi. Ve'etam eshanera, ve'shamra dekivi. And let us read the English creative text on the bottom of page 197 of that prayer. My soul came to me pure, drawn from the reservoir of the holy. All the time it remains within me, I am thankful for its thirst for compassion and justice. Let my eyes behold the beauty of all creatures. Let my hands know the privilege of righteous deeds. Baruch atah Adonai asher b'yado nefesh kol chai v'ruach kol basar ish. And now we have our Nasim B'chol Yom, our miracles of the day. And if you are not following along in Hebrew, you can just say Amen after each verse. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lasech v'bina lehavkim ben yom u'ben layla. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanoten laya'ef koach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavir sheina me'enai u'tnuma me'af apai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shesani b'tzelem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shesani bat chorim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shesani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. The blessing for Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah. Amen. And now, if you'll read Let's Together in the middle of page 207. We're going to read this text from Maimonides. This is a time of Passover at the beginning. Hard to believe that we're already in April and that Pesach is in less than a week. And it is customary to search your home for the chametz and to give $18 to sell your chametz. I have the forms for you here. I have the instructions on how to look for the chametz. The forms are online. You can come to our annual chametz eating pancake, French toast, muffin, breakfast next Friday morning. It is customary to do it on the morning before the night of the Seder, which is kind of, stressful, but it is our last time to get it in if you actually observe. So you have the blessing. If you do not have, you could just go around the house. If you want a candle, a feather, and a spoon in a bag, let me know and I will get it to you. But what you could just do is take a candle, put 10 little breadcrumbs around your house, look for it with a candle in the dark, but some of us are getting older, we might not want to do that. So just maybe we don't even want to bend over, so maybe just tear off 10 breadcrumbs, throw the rest of it out, bring it in a baggie, and we'll burn it on Friday, next Friday. So, but we do, anything that rises, we want to get rid of it, and we also want to get rid of some of the, not eat the things that we're not supposed to. So things that are leaven and things that ferment. So, but we're also supposed to always think about giving tzedakah and giving, and that is so important. And there are some people in our community that give tirelessly, constantly, of their resources, of their wealth, and of their time and their energy, and we're so grateful to them. And as we sit in this building and we contemplate our future, I ask all of you as we approach membership season, hard to believe that June and July are also just around the corner, to think about the ways in which you can give either of your time or your finances to keep the light of Emet, truth and justice, going forward. So together in the middle of page 207. There are 8 degrees in giving of tzedakah, each one higher than the one before. To give grudgingly, reluctantly, or with regret. To give less than one should, but with grace. To give what one should, but only after being asked. To give before one is asked. To give without knowing who will receive it, although the recipient knows the identity of the giver. To give without making known one's identity. To give so that neither giver nor receiver knows the identity of the other. To help another to become self-supporting by means of a gift, a loan, or by finding employment for the one in need. And we were so happy to be able to help Sergei, our Ukrainian refugee, and Mark Reichert is here. Thank you for all the things that you did. Also Pat Alexander and so many of us that worked so hard to help him settle. Lucky him in Santa Barbara. A far cry from where he had been. So now, if you'll turn in your books, we have our, we're going to go forward to our Ashrei prayer. It is said if you do the Ashrei 3 times a day, it'll help keep the doctor away, page 215 and 216. We'll go slowly. Ashrei yoshvei veitecha, od yehalalucha selam. Ashrei ha'am shekachalo, Ashrei ha'am shadonai Elohav. Tehillah leDavid, Aron imecha Elohai hamelech, va'avarcha shimcha le'olam va'ed. V'chol yom avarchecha, v'halal shimcha le'olam va'ed. Gadol Adonai u'mehulal me'od, ve'legdulato ein cheker. Dor ledor yeshavach ma'asecha, u'gvurotecha yagidu. Hadar kavod hodecha, ve'divrei niflotecha asicha. Ve'ezuz norotecha yomeru, u'gdulatecha asaprena. Zecher rab tshuvcha yabiu, ve'tzid katacha yeranenu. Chanun berachum Adonai, erech apayim ugdal chased. Tov Adonai lakol, verachamav al kol ma'asam. Yoducha Adonai kol ma'asecha, v'chasidecha yevarechucha. Kevod malchutecha yomeru, ugvuratecha yedaberu. Lehodia libnei ha'adam geburotav, uhavod hadar malachuto. Malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umemsheltecha bechol dor vador. Somech Adonai lechol hanoflim, vezokef lechol hakefufim. Einechol eilecha yesaberu, ve'ata noten lahem et ochlam be'ito. Poteach et yadecha, umasbir lechol chai ratzon. Sadik Adonai bechol derachav, vechasid bechol ma'asav. Karov Adonai lechol korav, lechol asher yikra'uhu ve'emet. Ratzon Yirayav Ya'aseh, ve'et Shabbatam Yishma ve'yoshi'em. Shomer Adonai et kol ohavav, ve'et kol harsha'im yashmid. Tehillat Adonai yedaber pi, vivarech kol basar shem kodesho le'olam va'ed. V'anachnu nevarech ya, me'ata be'ad olam, hallelujah. V'anachnu nevarech ya, me'ata be'ad olam, hallelujah. It's important to note that one of the values of having the Saturday morning service is that there are prayers that we do on Shabbat morning and the weekday morning services that we don't do in the evening. For example, Ma Tovu, Elohim Shema, which we explored in our prayer and Kabbalah and music class, but also the Nisim B'chol Yom, the miracles of the day, which we just did, and the Ashrei, which we just did, and Sim Shalom, which we will do later. So these are prayers that we have an opportunity to praise God with and with our soul that we can't do when we just come on Friday evening. So kudos to those of you that are here today, both in person and on live stream. 218, Psalm 150, we are meant to praise God with all of the instrument of the vessel of our being and instruments. So let's hear it. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Well, Shabbat, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, Shabbat, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Everybody, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Nishmat kol chai tevarech et shemcha Adonai Eloheinu. And now if you'll turn to 224 for the Hatzil Kaddish as we separate our musical portion that is our warm-up to our official call to worship, the Baruch Hu. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabba be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlik malchutei v'chayehon v'yomechon v'chayeh v'chol beit Yisrael v'gala v'gala v'bizman karei v'imro Yehi shemei Rabba mevarach v'yalam lo me'amayach Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitpa'ar, V'yitramon, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yitalev, V'yithalal, Shemei D'Kudashah, V'rechu, Le'ela, Min Kol Birchata, V'shirata, Tishbechata, V'nechemata, Da'amiran De'alma V'imru. Amen. And now the Baruch Hu, our official call to worship. The Baruch Hu. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu and Adonai HaMevorah Baruch Adonai HaMevorah HaMevorah Le'olam Va'ed HaMevorah HaMevorah Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Adonai HaMevorah Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. We now have our morning prayer, our Yotzer Or, once again, a prayer. It's a prayer about light, or, so we do it in the daytime. So together, let us read together first the text underneath, the Hebrew, on 228, and then we'll do the prayer. We'll read the prayer. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of light and darkness, who makes peace and fashions all things. In mercy you illumine the world and those who live upon it. In your goodness you daily renew creation. How numerous are your works, Adonai! In wisdom you form them all, filling the earth with your creatures. Be praised, Adonai, our God, for the excellent work of your hands, and for the lights you created. May they glorify you. Shine a new light upon Zion, that we all may swiftly merit its radiance. Praised are you, Adonai, creator of all heavenly lights. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMa'orot. And of course, we are so grateful to God for creating all the creatures, including us. But I was so excited because I recently saw a little program on baby alligators. Have you ever seen baby alligators? Oh, they are so cute. I had an alligator. I don't know if you know this. Before my mother kicked my father out of the house and told him to take that alligator with him, I was 4 because I couldn't have a dog. So I had a little tiny baby alligator. It was like a little tiny lizard. And we had to feed him live worms. And we lived in an apartment with a little tiny patio in San Jose. And he got bigger and bigger and bigger, and he ate more and more and more, and he got to be about this big. And my mom was like, that's it. You move out and take that alligator with you. Interestingly enough, we lived in San Jose. Come to find out years later, he moved to Lomita. And he lived right over on Lomita Boulevard in between Narbonne and Crenshaw. In a little apartment, there's like a little apartment cluster. And I found out later, actually at a lunch that I had with you and Bert Belzer and a group of people, because we were recounting what this place looked like in the 60s. And I would visit him, and I remember we would walk and we would go to the gas station and get like little drinks, and he worked at the Sears in the automotive section at Delamo when they had the automotive section. And we would go through this marshy, horrible area that we would get all bit up. It was the Madrona Marsh. Come to find out, how many years later, we come full circle, whether we like it or not. So I'm watching this program about the little baby alligators. So what did my father do? He told me, don't worry, there is a lake. Unfortunately, this is on live stream, so hopefully nobody will come get me. There is a lake right near where I live. I'm going to put the alligator in the lake. That lake was next to Kaiser. And my alligator, Reggie, is now living at the zoo. And at the LA Zoo. And when Mark and I go visit, he knows when his mama comes to visit. Doesn't he? And now he has a girlfriend, but he gets all, we've been there, and people will say, he doesn't like to come out to the front and see people, but when his mama shows up, he comes out and he smiles at me. Mama, you're here. So it was very interesting because I saw this little program, and they're so cute, and I forgot what he looked like when he was a little baby. So anyway, thank you, God, for the creatures, including the baby alligators. So thought I'd share that with you. See the things we share on Saturday mornings. So now on the top of page 231, as we speak of that Lech Lecha, another thing that everyone loves that we can only read on Saturday morning, when my mother told my father to Lech Lecha, and he came to Lomita, let us read together. Once or twice in a lifetime, a man or a woman may choose a radical leaving, having heard Lech Lecha, go forth. God disturbs us toward our destiny by hard events and by freedom's now urgent voice, which explode and confirm who we are. We don't like leaving, but God loves becoming. Baruch atah Adonai habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava. And I would like to dedicate this service to my daughter, Alyssa Thomas Newborn, and her husband, Akiva, and their baby daughter, my little granddaughter, Ella, and my baby granddog, Judy. They are Lech Lechaing to New Jersey this Thursday. So may they go forth toward a new destiny and a new chapter. Teaneck, and she will be working as a chaplain. She's both a rabbinite and a chaplain at New York Presbyterian in Manhattan. So they're very excited because they are now landlords for their condo in the Hood at Pico Robertson, and they are homeowners in Teaneck, New Jersey. So she's like, Mom, look what I'm doing. Good for her. I always raised her to do it one better than her mother. Okay, so she's Orthodox and not Reformed. Ahava Rabbah on page 230. Are you ready? So first, let's read underneath the text we just read, Lech Lecha on 231, and then we'll do, it's a cappella, no piano, no musicians. Love your neighbor as yourself, you said, and like blinded we saw that inner and outer worlds are one as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us as we climbed and we fell back and we climbed again. Your Sinai of life, Baruch atah Adonai habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava. And I want you to think about this as you hear the sermon. We reached for you down the centuries. So century after century, things happen. That light moving before us as we reach for the light, we try to have that light in our life. And we climb and we fall back. And we climb again, forward and back, forward and back. And hopefully, when we take 5 steps forward and 3 steps back, that we take 10 steps forward and we keep going forward. So, Ahava Rabbah, the deep love that Adonai has for all of us. So, Ahava Rabbah Havtanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chem Lagedol Avetera, Chamalta Aleinu, Ba'avur Avotenu, Ve'imotenu, Shebachu Lecha, Shebachu Lecha, Shebachu Lecha, V'telamdenu ken chayim, ken techanenu tlamdenu, Hamrachem rachem aleinu, Hamrachem rachem aleinu, V'ten belibenu lehavin, lehavin ol haskil lishmoa, lilmod ulelamed, lishmor velasot, ulekayem et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha ve'ahava, be'ha'er elenu be'toratecha, ve'davek libeinu b'mitzvotecha, ve'yached levavenu le'ahava u'yira et shemecha, ve'levash, ve'lani karem, ve'lani kasher, le'olam va'ed, ki v'shem kadeshecha, Hagadol v'hanora v'hataknu, Nagila v'nismecha, Nagila v'nismecha v'shuatecha. And if you're able to, please rise for the rest of the prayer to the tune of Hatikva. And if you'd like, you can face east. Ve'havienu le'shalom, me'arba kanfos haaretz, ve'tolichenu k'hamiyut le'artzenu, ki el po'el Yeshua tata, v'anu b'charta v'kiravtanu, l'shimcha hagadol, selah ve'emet lehodot lecha, u'yachedecha ve'ahava, Baruch atah Adonai habocher be'amo Yisrael ve'ahava. Another prayer we only do in the daylight. So if you'd like to stand for the Shema, please do, or be seated on page 232 and 233. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And make that connection. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema kavod, Shem kavod, malchuto, le'olam va'ed. Baruch Shem kavod, malchuto, le'olam va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Adonai Echad. Adonai Echad. Please be seated. And we're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to do it actually, Hafta should be, and no Wendy will be excited. So on the top of page 234, we do the first part, and then you can see it says continue or turn to pages 118, 119, 236, 237. There's the insert where we actually kiss our tzitzit. It's the actual indication. When do you wear it? During the day. The only nighttime, kol nidre. Okay, so we are commanded to kiss our tzitzit, be reminded that God is with us wherever we go, all over the four corners of the earth. And then we finish the text of the prayer on that page. So we're going to do it on our regular melody that we're used to, but on the top of page 236, we'll switch to the Torah trope melody. You ready? Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha. Wait, stop. Those of you that are wearing your talit, gather up all your tzitzit. So your four tzitzit, four corners, gather them around your hand, okay? So you're ready. And then if you're wearing lipstick, you might want to kiss your finger and not your tzitzit so that you don't get lipstick on there. And every time when we get to that other prayer in the middle, kiss it when we say tzitzit. It'll come up 3 times. Okay, so top of page 234. 234. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha v'hayu hadevarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam Beshivtecha bevetecha, uvelechtecha vaderech, uveshofecha, uvekumecha, ukashartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot bein inecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. Turn the page on the top. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael, ve'amarta alehem, ve'asu lahem, kasi, al kanfei vigdehem, ledorotam, benatanu, kasi, al tzitzi, ha-kanah, petil techele, vehaya lachem, kasi, letzitzi, or item oto, uzachartem, et kol mitzvot Adonai, va'asitem otam, velo taturu acharei levavechem, ve'acharei einechem, asher atem zonim achareihem. Leman tizkuru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim le'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher Hotzeti Echem Me'eretz Mitzrayim L'hiyot lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Lechem Adonai Lechem Emet. Now, don't you feel completely fulfilled? Okay, so bottom of the second paragraph on 237, let us read together. With that intention of kissing Osisi, life without integrity is like loosely hanging threads, easily fraying from the main cloth, while in acts of piety we learn to understand that every instant is like a thread, raveling out of eternity to form a delicate tassel. We must not cast off the threads, but weave them into the design of an eternal fabric. Each day points to eternity. The fate of all time depends upon a single moment. And even at this very moment that we are together, we create and manifest energy for the world. And if you turn to page 239, that's why we are Temple Emet, Temple of Truth and Justice. And if you look at the top, we're going to do a reading where we say Emet twice. So we're going to say it with ruach, with spirit and excitement. So let's practice it. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Emet! One more time. 1, 2, 3. Emet! Okay, now we're going to read it. Are you ready? Emet! There is no place where you are not, even in the wilderness, there is your word. Emet! That pen strokes of lightning, white fire, black flame, stir the soul's passion, guide our sacred way. True and enduring is Torah. Your truth for us is certain and established, now and forevermore. Like Moses, Miriam, and all Israel, we sing out and rejoice. Micha mocha. On the next page, and if you want, you can boogie in your own little seat. We should all have the exuberance of our own little fiddler on the roof, and Mark Reichert, who just turned 88. Oh my gosh. Please let us all get some of his ruach. And some of her spirit as well. Thank you so much. Good job. Mazel. Okay, so 241 at the top. Let us read together. The good in us will win over all the wickedness, over all the wrongs we have done. Think about this with the sermon. We will look back at the pages of written history and be amazed, and then we will laugh and sing, and the good that is in us, children in their cradles, will have won. Our hearts beat with certainty that there is a day and an hour and a mountain called Zion, and that all of the sufferings will gather there and become song, ringing out into every corner of the earth from end to end, and the nations will hear it, and like the caravans in the desert, will all to that morning throng. And now, you can take a deep breath, pray as if everything depended on God, but act as if everything depended on you. Please rise for the Amidah as the ark is open. And we chant the prayer. Adonai sefatai tita ufi agite hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, V'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chastei Avot, Ve'imahot, U'mevi Ge'ula Libnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshe Umadim, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magin Avraham, Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Atah, Rav Lehoshia. And this is the last time we're going to do this together, winter. Mashiv Haruach Morid Hagashem, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Vedofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Yidurot, Urido Melech, Melech Memid Umachayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'nemanat halachayot hakol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaMetim. And I want to say that it's the last time we're going to do it only in this year. We will do it again next year. We will be switching to summer after Passover begins. Okay, now, another prayer that we only do in the daytime. Sanctification, full form of the day on 248. We do the smaller one at night. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך וכרז זה לאמור, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלך כל הארץ כבודו, אדיר אדירנו אדוני, אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, barak kavod Adonai ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ורחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי יפסיעו לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גורלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושירך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גורלך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גורלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחה אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם לעולם ועד. ברך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Please be seated. And now, Yismechu on page 250. Yismechu. Shabbat shomre Shabbat bekore Olev Shabbat Lehashvir Ratzita ba v'chidash Shabbat Shabbat and Yodin Otel Karata Shabbat Ismehu V'malachutecha Shomre 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 Shabbat Bekore Olev Shabbat Shabbat Ismehu V'malachutecha Shomre 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 Shabbat Bekore Olev Shabbat Zecher Lemase Bereshit Shabbat Zecher Lemase Bereshit Shabbat Ismehu V'malachutecha Shomre 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 Shabbat Bekore Olev Shabbat Shabbat Ismehu V'malachutecha Shomre 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 Shabbat Bekore Olev Shabbat. Woo! Good job, guys. Good job. And now on 254, we'll do a cappella without instrumentation. We studied this in our class, the Ritzay. And let's do the English. It's on both pages. Let's do the English on 255. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion, restored, in all lands. You are our God, whom alone we serve and reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levarecha v'yira na'avo. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu le'amcha Yisrael. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu le'amcha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahavat kavel u'tefilatam be'ahavat kavel Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael. Miriam. In my mind, I was hearing you. You're doing so well with that violin, getting so klezmerish. I'm kind of thinking that we should have Dan write out something with that Ritzay for just like you, like, you know, violin and solo voice with congregation. Yes, I think that, don't you think? I think that'd be very good.
Thank you, Rabbi. Give me a challenge.
It was speaking to me on high. God was saying, I want to hear some of that violin from Marianne. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And what we're going to do right before we do the sermon is a prayer for peace, Sim Shalom, which we did discuss in our prayer class, page 258, Sim Shalom, where we are asking, we're saying to put peace and blessing upon us all, and this is something that our entire world needs. Sim Shalom. Sing, sing, sing Shalom, sing, sing, sing Shalom, sing, sing, sing Shalom Tova V'racha. One more time. Sing, sing, sing Shalom, sing, sing, sing Shalom, sing, sing, sing Shalom Tova. Woo! Very good, very good. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Doesn't it feel good to be here in the daylight? Spread the word. This was an experiment through the end of the fiscal year, so spread the word. We want to keep it going for the next fiscal year. So, Shabbat Shalom. So, last Shabbat, it was Tazria. And this Shabbat's Parsha is Metzora. And you might remember I said sometimes they're together, Tazria and Metzora. But this year, because we're spreading things out to get our year, our Jewish lunar cycle back together, they're separated. So in the news, you probably heard, in Sacramento this past week, there was yet another shooting. This occurred and it killed 6 and it wounded many more. And it was the largest mass shooting in that city's history. It is said that mass killings are on the rise, especially here in California. To quote a New York Times article, in just this year alone, there have been 5 mass murders. That's the killing. It's considered of 4 or more people, and 3 of the 5 took place in California. We are in a sad state of affairs, not just here in California, but all over the world. The country all over the world. Democracy as a whole is under siege, not just in the Ukraine, but all over Europe, not to mention what happened here in America. Civil unrest and negativity takes hold, and everything that we hold dear is at risk. Life imitates art. I go from watching the series Outlander, does anybody watch Outlander, where the new liberals, they're now fighting for freedom and to rise up against the king and to establish the United States of America and get rid of that imposed servitude, only to then see how our inalienable rights that they fought for centuries ago are still being challenged several hundred years later, both here and abroad. So actually, look at the Torah. Things haven't changed that much in 5,000 years. We struggled for our freedom in ancient times, and even though God had set us free, humanity as a whole is still struggling today. Democracy and freedom is challenged at every turn. May the definition of this disease, let us take a look at it, because this dis-ease and the disease lies with us. Last Shabbat, we went into great detail about Sara'at and the plague, the disease that can affect homes, clothes, and ultimately us. We become afflicted through acts of negative speech and behavior. This seems to be a perpetuating global condition of humanity that never ends. There's so much strife in the world, and we actually have the power to change things if we change the way we conduct ourselves. We become impure and diseased by our own behaviors and our own deeds. We addressed this, as I said, last Shabbat, but today's Parsha goes even farther into the conditions of impurity, identifying a more detailed, naturally occurring state of impurity when you come into contact with someone who has just recently passed away, and when you come in contact with recurring bodily fluids, which we do not have to go into detail, but you can think about them. Zion Nefesh, in a Kabbalistic interpretation on this Parsha, recounts a story Rabbi Elazar learned from his father. When an unclean spirit dwells at home, the Holy One sends leprosy onto the walls. Remember, we talked about it. It's the house first. To purify the house, the home, and its inhabitants. Both of the negative spirits fight, and they go against each other. The leprosy wins. It's actually a purifying agent and sends that unclean spirit out of the home. The complete purification comes after they cast those infected stones out of the walls, out of the city, and replace them. And remember, we said sometimes they find hidden gold inside those walls back in the day. Similarly, when the Holy One wants to remove the impure spirit, he brings strong judgments to remove the impure spirit from the world. So we're going to think about judgments like attitudes, things that are placed upon a person to make them change their behavior. The forces of judgments take dominance until they are destroyed, together with the original place of impurity. So the sages teach that those who get into an impure state attract greater impurity. So you're impure and you're in that negative state, and so you're like a magnet, and you create this domino that you attract more and more impurity. Because the new unclean spirit is more significant than the previous pure one. It takes it over and stays until the vessel breaks. So the vessel that has now become impure has to be broken so it can be rebuilt again, restored, pure. He goes on to say, impurity starts with a very small negative action and tends to grow more prominent because the negative spirit wants to have full control over the person, giving the example of somebody who's dieting. And this morning I woke up and all I really wanted was a donut. Now, I haven't had a donut in a very long time. And I knew what I had written in my sermon. And I thought, shame on me for wanting this donut, because I'm going to be in an impure state and I'm going to have to deal with it later. So you'll see what he said. The person dieting takes a very small donut, and I wanted this donut because Passover is coming. The person dieting takes this very small bite of his favorite forbidden food, leading to yet another bite and another bite, eventually losing control. The judgment that comes after is visible. What happens? You gain a few pounds, and then what happens? You feel miserable, you feel negative about yourself, and you have to deal with it. Or not, and it just goes worse and worse and worse. The Israelites in Egypt became impure. And before they submitted entirely to the other side of negativity, God put them into a long period of slavery under Pharaoh. That was their judgment. Pharaoh was the carrier of the judgments that helped purify the Israelites from the impurity that they absorbed. So, they were stiff-necked people, they worshipped idols, they did all kinds of stuff, so it might seem extreme, but God placed them into slavery. In a sense, that was their judgment, their punishment. Then he freed them, and this cycle goes around and around and around. So Pharaoh was the vehicle for the judgment, but then Pharaoh was not he should not have been a slave master, right? So to break Pharaoh's judgment, God brought on him what? The plagues, and destroyed Egypt, which housed the negativity, that negative side of the energy, and the source that was the judgment, the slavery on the Israelites. So another example of this is the Holy Temple. Both temples were destroyed, and it is thought that the temples were destroyed because of the impure behavior of the Israelites. So now the same process works on a personal and a global level. On a personal level, we can break our vessel to remove our impurity and the judgments. And we do this by fasting. That's why we're supposed to fast on Yom Kippur. So we fast, we get in that state of a near almost death-like state, and we wear white, and we cleanse ourselves, and then we rebuild ourselves back for a whole new year, hopefully putting our vessel back together so it'll be better for the next year. The other potential for creating a broken vessel that can be renewed is with a broken heart. So fasting disconnects us from the desire to receive for our own self, and then it lets our soul take over our body. So in the Bible, in all different faiths, they go out and they fast and they get like these grand, revelations, and then they come back and, then they apply those to the world. A broken heart is a state when a person sincerely regrets what they have done wrong, how they have possibly harmed another person, so that person then passed a judgment on them and their heart was broken, their vessel was broken, and so then they want to correct their behavior so that they can go out and rebuild and have better relationships and interactions with others. So in the Psalms it says, the sacrifices of God are a broken spirit and a broken and contrite heart. On a global level, judgments that come from impurities created by governments and world leaders, what happens? They cause war and death. The evil side and impure forces drive people to confusion, chaos, and then ultimately questioning their faith. Where is God? Think of the Holocaust. Everybody's like, how did this happen? Where was God in all this? This is the final and most powerful play of the evil, dark side. When we become disconnected from God, the light stops flowing into the world. And in this case, the world as a whole falls into the dominance of the evil side. And the evil side then uses people as a source of energy instead to promote negativity instead of light. So, for example, in today's society, Putin, and I don't do politics on the Bima, but for this example, Putin passes judgment upon Ukraine. He decides to take it over and wage a war. The United States and European allies band together and pass judgment on Putin, levying sanctions, seizing assets of the mega rich, and hopefully diffusing the situation and bringing an end to the war, thereby enabling Ukraine to rebuild and actually come back better than before. So we think about the vessel gets broken, and then it comes back better than before. So have you ever noticed how there's a war, a country gets completely devastated, and then what happens? They come back, they get built up better than before, and become sometimes a mega superpower, dominating others. The vessel is destroyed by the judgment, and then it is built back better because of it. So as we go into Passover and we think about this, because this is really our new year, so you have to think about when we do the Heshbon HaNefesh, the accounting of our soul at Rosh Hashanah, that we actually are doing that now with the removal of the things that puff us up and thinking about what those things are so we can be better in this coming year and at least create a better world for ourselves and everyone around us. We need to shatter our vessels, ridding ourselves of that which is not working. So you see, I had to not go get that donut as much as I wanted it. And you can see I still want it, but I'm not going to get it. Seeking to uncover, we have to go look with that candle, the feather, and the spoon in the dark. My dogs love that. Those hidden crumbs of pride, negativity, and ego that are holding us back. Freeing ourselves from all that enslaves us individually and collectively. So let us do the work as one humanity sharing this world. Let us begin at home with ourselves. And this week, look at your cupboards, clear them out, just as you would clear your mind. So if you have some boxes of things that have been there a while, throw them away. And as you do that, think of yourself clearing your mind. If you look at your spices, if some of them are outdated, your medicines, it's a good opportunity. Just think of it's an exercise to say, I'm freeing myself of that which is old. If you just do this one thing, and I'm going to make way for my vessel to have something new. Step by step, as you separate that which puffs you up, if you look at it actually, with the reality of the actual holiday, beans, grains, cookies, crackers, cakes, and then you seal them off in another cupboard or you give them away. As you clean your home, ridding away all of the affliction that you might have through this actual Passover spring cleaning, you thereby then clean your soul, clearing away any judgments from the past year of everything that ails you and holds you back. You free yourself from that which enslaves you or puffs you up by eradicating all ego, pride, and negativity. You literally clear out your cupboards physically, but you also clear out your vessel spiritually, metaphysically. You clean house figuratively and psychically. And you should sell your chametz. Every single member of this community should sell their chametz. I say this every single year because the reality is there's probably only 3% of the people in this community that are actually clearing out their cupboards. So you know what? You don't want to clear out your cupboards? Sell your chametz. It's the same thing. $18, not a big deal. Just sell it to us. And then what happens is that you're freed of all of it. It's just like you did it. So for example, my daughter, what is she doing? They're moving to New Jersey the day before Passover. Why? They don't have to prepare their house for Passover. But in a sense, it's even bigger because I was there yesterday. They're clearing out their cupboards. They're throwing away everything they don't want the Packers to take. They're actually doing it, whether they realize it or not. But they're going to go stay with their in-laws, and their whole house has been prepared in the Orthodox fashion with boiling water on all the countertops and things all covered up and all the dishes, the new dishes for Passover and the pots and pans and everything. So these are the things that, that we do to prepare. But at the very, very least, least, which is not a small thing, is sell your chametz, because it's tzedakah for temple, and it's tzedakah for your soul. So create humility, restore your vessel to a pure state, chasing away any possibility for those negative, evil forces to take root and dwell within. Our being and our world will be better for it, and the promise that's inherent in Passover will prevail. May this be God's blessing, and may this be our mission for the coming week. May you come eat chametz. We can have donuts and pancakes and French toast all in one meal on Friday morning. Shabbat shalom. So if you would like to send a prayer for healing to your loved ones that are in need of a spiritual uplifting or a physical uplifting, please turn to page 371. And you can go ahead and bring them into your mind's eye as the music is playing. You can see each one of their faces. We ask that they get a refuah shlema, a complete healing. We ask that God be with them. You can say their names aloud or in your heart. We ask that those in our community, that we know that Sandy Teicher has been in the hospital. We know Arlene Vita has been dealing with, starting with kidney dialysis. And we know that Hilda and Rebecca Weintraub are recovering from surgery. And there's so many others. Bruce Reed is recovering from a stroke, and also he has brain cancer. So there's so many people. So we ask that everybody get a refuah shlema and a full healing of body and spirit. Mi shevera avotenu mekor havracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us sing Amen. Mi shevera imotenu mekor habracha imotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us sing Amen. And I want to thank everyone that has been there in support of Andrea and also Judy Evans. And I know that Judy still is having a rough time recovering from the plates in her wrist, and she's also going to be having hip surgery. So whatever you can do to continue to support her. Also, I know Pat Alexander sent out an email to join our Bikur Cholim committee. Everyone is getting older, and we do need, people to help out as these things come up. However, when we went to Israel 5 or 6 years ago, it was not our older ones that got sick. I mean, a lot of them were the younger ones. So, so we had a couple in the 50s and 60s that got sick. So now we're going to move in our service to our Aleinu. If you'll turn to page 586 at the bottom. We're going to do that. If you're able to, please rise as we move towards the closing prayers of our service. It's an interesting thing, on Shabbat there should be no time. I remember when we were at another place, many of us, before we made Temple Emet, there was a congregant who said to me, if you could finish the service by 12 o'clock, I'll give $100,000 to $200,000. I wish that congregant belonged here. They moved to Glendale. Bottom of page 586. Aleinu leshaveach ladon hakol, latein gedula leyotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegulei haratzo, velo samanu kemishachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת זו וגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Please be seated. So as I'm standing in front of the ark and I'm thinking about the glory of God and everything that God has created, and it's a wonderful thing that we have moments in our life when we can go forward with community and friendship. And doesn't it feel good to be here together? And if you're out there at home, please join us in person if you can find the strength and the courage to do so, because it's very different than nighttime, isn't it? And so now if you'll turn to page 598 as we have our Kaddish, our prayer for those who have passed on. So if you've lost somebody in the last week, would you please rise and say your loved one's name? And I'm so sorry, I just heard this morning. When did she pass? Our prayers go out to the family. She hung in for a very long time. How old was she?
96.
Close to 100. Yeah, and vital the whole time. Yes. Wow. That's great. And you're quite the dancer, so I'm sure she had to keep up. I've danced with you, I know. Okay, so at home, if you've lost someone in the last week, please rise and say their names. Okay, if you've lost someone in the last 30 days, please rise. Oh. So. Really? Wow, a Rothschild in the family. Okay, you can, if you want, you can stay standing. Sonny?
Yeah. Well, her name is Sheila Fox. We all know her as Susie.
See how important it is? These names are important, and the connection and the memory. Anybody else? Okay, and then if you've lost someone in the last 11 months, please rise and say their name. Sonny, go ahead. You got your hand up? Go ahead.
Al Jaffe, John Gore, Philip Cohn, Naveed Trivedi, Ann Bloomberg.
Sorry to hear. Go ahead.
My father, Charles Essenstein.
And this was people who've died in the last 11 months, but also yard site. So Charles Essenson, yes? Anybody else? So together as a community, if you're able, please rise for the Kaddish on page 598, or just say Amen when I raise my hand, and I say V'namar. Rimaru. Yikdal v'yikdash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma jivrach yeruteh ve'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayeh v'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kari v'imru. Yehe Shemei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Elomei Amaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitba'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Dekudashah V'richu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata tushvechata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alama v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. May God, who is the creator of all, the author of life and death, grant eternal rest and perfect peace to our loved ones in the heavenly realm, peace to those who are fresh with mourning and grief, and peace to all the world, as together we say, Amen. In our closing song, first we're going to bless each other with the Birkat Kohanim, will be Oseh Shalom. So first we ask, may God's countenance shine upon you and be with you and grant you peace and be with you always. And you can say, Kei mihi ratzon, after each chanted line. And as I think of the time, we had no control at the other place. We have more control over here. Yevarechacha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. Yaher Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. V'yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yaseh lecha shalom. Kei mihi ratzon, may it be God's will. Shabbat shalom to everybody. If you're coming to New York Deli, looking forward to having you. If you didn't RSVP, you can still join. So, Oseh Shalom. And thank you to our musicians. Be sure to come to the Seder on Friday. Thank you so much for them being here. And the breakfast Friday morning. And if you need a candle, feather, and spoon, let me know. Sell your chametz. Send it in, or you can give it to me on Friday. Check for your credit card for $18. You can put that online. Oseh Shalom Bimroma. Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Ve'imru Amen. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Israel. Woo! And if we had a sponsor for the flowers in the service, please forgive me for not saying it because I don't know who they are, but if you look online, it will be posted on our service. So thank you, everybody. And if we had no sponsor, please sponsor. We need those as well. For their anniversary, Lynn, do you know if we had a sponsor? I don't know. I think she would have been. I know. And also Harriet's soon to be, well, her grandson's fiancé is having a bridal shower. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.